Hello everyone and welcome to the Animezilia, and today we're here to talk about Dr. Stone, episode 6, entitled Two Nations of the Stone World. We start off in flashback mode, as we see Senku trying to figure out the reason as to why he was unpetrified. As we saw in last week's episode, we saw him get unpetrified, build up his type of little hut thing that he has, and make a sort of living for himself. However, he's finding it all difficult now, just getting through the day as it is. He's in serious need of some manpower, and as he has now found Taiju buried nearby. However, he finds out that using the nitric acid from the cave doesn't work entirely. We're told that it seems to require a human mind being active, just like Senku's was. As we saw in the previous episodes leading up to this, Senku was counting relentlessly within his head. So this is what basically helped the nitric acid work in order to break him free, basically. What that was that went on inside his head, we don't really know, but it's up to Senku to find out. Now then, we also get shown in this scene how Taiju ended up in the cave. It was basically Senku moved him there after finding out that he needs a active mind and nitric acid to kind of help unpetrify Taiju, and he's banking on Taiju keeping his mind active. And as we all know, he does just that. This whole scene was good in a way that shows us more of Senku's determination and dedication towards science. And there was one line in this sort of flashback that I really did like, and that was, petrification may be a fantasy, but the foundations of science are absolute. We see him do this while inscribing the E equals mc squared that I think Einstein kind of came up with onto his clothing. And I found this line to be great, as it basically highlights the fact that if something is the cause, you should keep applying the necessary elements to solve the question/equation. Or in this case, keep adding science, and you should reach the answer that you're looking for. Hopefully that kind of makes sense, but in my mind, that's kind of how I interpreted that, and I really did like the line for that aspect. Now then, flash forward to present day, and we have a revived Senku. Thanks to the restoration properties of the petrification being undone on the back of Senku's neck, it seems that restoring even a small piece of stone on a person can heal their entire body back to peak condition. This is also where Taiju states that it's a miracle stone, or maybe a Doctor Stone, giving us the link to the show's title. And honestly, I completely missed this line when I read the manga, so to hear this was actually great, as it informed me of the reason as to why the show is called what it is. I actually like that. I didn't get the reference on my own, which I feel kind of dumb not getting it, but hey, it's one of those things that anime series like to do. They like to have the title of a certain item from their respective series. One Piece does it with the One Piece treasure, Naruto does it with Naruto's name because it's his story, and you get the idea. Next we have a bit of comedy, and Yuzuriha receives a mission from Senku. And honestly, the comedy in this bit wasn't too bad. It was a little bit cringy at times, but it's just Taiju overreacting and being happy. And just, you know, it's classic Taiju stuff that we've come to see over the last 6 episodes. And it's decided that both Taiju and Yuzuriha will be going back to the Tsukasa Nation to basically act as spies while Yuzuriha carries out her mission. Now, we do not get told what the mission entails. All we know at this moment in time is that it's a very grueling task, and only she can do it because she's a member of the Ultra Crafts Club from way back when they were at school. So this really kind of does lead you to think, what is that mission? And honestly, I'm not going to spoil it by saying what it is, because it's, obviously they've uncovered it in the manga already, and if you've read the manga, you know what it is. But if you haven't, then you can kind of put the pieces together by looking at that scene again and seeing what Yuzuriha is asking Senku in regards to piecing things back together, basically. Now, I feel like I've said too much on that, but hey, let's move on. So, the three go their separate ways, with Taiju and Yuzuriha going towards the Tsukasa Nation, which I don't really get, because by the end of this episode we find out that the way that Yuzuriha and Taiju went is kind of the opposite way as to where Tsukasa went. But maybe they're heading for the cave, or with the nitric acid in. I don't know. And Senku is going to seek out the person responsible for lighting the signal fire that we saw a couple of episodes back. Now, the separation was okay. We have Taiju doing the classic arm raise pose, like they did in One Piece at the end of the Alabaster arc. And Senku raises the Science Nation flag proudly that was created by Yuzuriha in this episode, which is meant to resemble stars in a spaceship or a rocket, and yeah, it's not the best, but for what they have, I guess it works. However, during this time, the best girl within the Dr. Stone series arrives and starts to fight Tsukasa. And the way that she approaches him is brilliant. She disguises her daggers and shield in a bouquet of flowers, and then dashes in for a strike. Now, it does seem a bit kind of even at the start, but it's very clear that Tsukasa is overpowering her in terms of physical ability. But with Tsukasa's kind of intuition and thought process, he comes to the realization that she is in fact a kind of primal descendant that doesn't know anything about science or modern technology. He tries to think that maybe I could rule over that village that she comes from, but my top priority is the cave. Now, it turns out that this female, we don't know her name yet, she watched the events up in the mountain transpire, and this is how she knows that Tsukasa is a bad guy and why she started to fight him. However, because Tsukasa wants to leave and go towards the cave, she fails to kill him and gets a tree dropped on her. Tsukasa basically kicks her down and drops a tree on her. Now, this is where I have one issue with the episode in regards to Senku's character. After seeing and hearing the crash of the tree, he runs over to help. But if he does that, then wouldn't Tsukasa be nearby, making his plan to sneak around and make Tsukasa think he is still dead irrelevant? I don't know. Maybe he left a bit of time so that Tsukasa would run away, but it's a tricky one. Anyway, thanks to some science and time, Senku manages to save/help this new female character by creating a device called a pulley. And it was created by this guy. I'm not going to try and butcher this scientist's name, so you'll see it up on screen along with this picture. This mesmerizes the new female character, and we learn that her name is Kohaku, which, as a side note, translates to amber when you go from Japanese to English. A gemstone, anybody? Now, then, the music and the sound effects. Within this episode, we had some catchy music while Senku was creating the pulley device and using all of his current tools he has on him to make it, because this device took a long time to construct and looked quite complicated. But anyway, we're here to talk about the music and the sound effects in this bit. The music in this was great. I loved the music, I loved the band, it was catchy, it was fun, it was, it went well with the actual scene it was working in. The music we had in the flashback was good, and the sound effects were odd, but strangely enough, they somehow worked. For example, the bouncing sound effect that occurred while Taiju was shaking Yuzuriha, when she was saying that they need to go back to Tsukasa, was odd, but again it worked. All in all, a great job on the sound effects and the music. Voice acting in this episode was all great, and I love the voice they've given to Kawaku. The VA that plays her is Nakamura Namani, I think that's how you pronounce the second name, who has appeared in a few other anime series. One I can think of off the top of my head would be she plays Brandish from Fairy Tail, which I like Brandish's character in that, and the voice acting is good in that too, and is great in Dr. Stone. So, good job on that. And lastly, the animation was really nice. I couldn't find any really bad oopsies in terms of the art style. It just all together flowed really nicely, and I loved the way that they put so much detail onto Kohaku's character, because the animation and the art style is just beautiful for that character in general. It really is nice to look at, and is aesthetically pleasing, especially when you look at the scenery altogether. The one thing that this series has is brilliant animation, and this episode carried that through. All in all, a really fun and enjoyable episode, and I would highly recommend anyone to go and watch it, because you see some good bonding and connections between the three main groups. You get a new good, in my opinion, best girl character within this show appear, and you get a semi-decent fight between Tsukasa and Kawaku as well. So that's going to do it for this review. I hope you've all enjoyed. If you have, remember to smash that like button. Hey, subscribe if you're new so you never miss a video from me. And until next time, I hope you'll have an amazing day, and I'll be seeing you all in the next one. Bye for now.